State Center, graduated in electrical engineering from IIT Roorkee in year 1969. He joined Uttar Pradesh State Electricity Board as assistant engineer in year 1971 and promoted to the post of general manager in year 2005. He remained in charge of administration and personnel at UP Power Corporation besides other important works. He had worked as a specialist small hydro in NEDA, a government of UP organization. He had also worked as consultant engineer in Rajasthan and Uttarakhand. He had worked for more than 17 years in design, construction and maintenance of more than 50 numbers small, medium and major hydroelectric power stations of Uttarakhand. He had also conducted the training of 3 batches of students in solar energy under Surya Mitra Skill Development Program at Uttarakhand State Center, Dehradun, as Joint Honorary Secretary, Uttarakhand State Center. Now I will request Shri Dharamchand Arora, Chairman, to deliver his Chairman address.
Thank you. Thank you.
बोल भाई, थैंक यू के बाद रुक क्यों गया? बोलो.
I am audible, please.
हाँ, मुझे सुन रहा है.
On behalf of Uttarakhand State Center, welcome our Honorable President Dr. Hemant O. Thackeray, Institution of Engineer Calcutta, Engineer Narendra Singh, immediate past President Institution of Engineer Calcutta, Mr. M. Nagaraj, Chairman, Civil Division Board, Institution of Engineer, and Engineer G. Ranganath, Chairman, Committee for Advancement Technological Engineering, who may be joining later on, and our learned panelist, Engineer Dr. Sanjay Kumar Jain, Scientist G and Head of Water Resources and System Division, National Institute of Hydrology, Roorkee, Engineer Narendra Kumar Yadav, Chief Engineer, former Chief Engineer, Uttarakhand Irrigation Department, former Managing Director, Uttarakhand Power, Uttarakhand Projects Development and Construction Corporation Limited, and our moderator, Engineer S.C. Goel, former Chief Engineer, Uttarakhand Irrigation Department and Chairman, Disaster Awareness Management Forum, Institution of Engineers, Dehradun, and Engineer S.C. Chauhan, Honorary Secretary, Institution of Engineers, Uttarakhand State Center, Dehradun, sparing their valuable time for taking part in this webinar. I also welcome all the engineers and the respected ladies and gentlemen from various parts of our country and officers and engineers of from various places of Institution of Engineers from headquarters and Uttarakhand State Center who are taking part in this webinar. Today we are organizing a webinar which is focused on Glacial Lake Outburst in association with Disaster Awareness Management Forum, Dehradun, and in a sponsorship with National Institute of Hydrology, Roorkee. As we all know that glacial hazards related to glaciers take place due to disturbances which occur in the glacial lakes located in high mountains. Recent times, due to climate change, big glaciers started melting at higher rate, which created sudden discharge of large volume of water with debris from these lakes. Outbursts from the glaciers caused the loss of human lives and created severe damages to local infrastructure downstream of the river. Therefore, the monitoring of these lakes and their impact along the downstream damages has now become necessary. It is almost become utmost necessary to design the flood discharge and the spillways capacity of new hydroelectric projects which are being planned in the Himalayan region. Now our both panelists will discuss these problems in detail and will try to tell us the new technological solutions of these problems of glacial lake outburst floods in detail. Thank you. Over to Engineer S.C. Goel, our moderator, for further continuation of this webinar. Thank you.
Since Engineer M. Nagaraj, Chairman Civil Engineering Division Board, is not here and he is abroad, and Dr. G. Rangnath, Chairman KATE, is also not able to join at present. I will read the introduction of our President H.O. Thackeray. Dr. Hemant Omkar Rao Thackeray is a graduate in civil engineering and postgraduate in structural engineering from Vishveshwaraya National Institute of Technology, Nagpur, and was awarded PhD in civil engineering by RTM Nagpur University. He joined Yashwant Rao Chauhan College of Engineering, Nagpur, a flagship institute of mega group of institutions in 1984, and was Professor of Civil Engineering and Executive Director Technical. Dr. Hemant Thackeray has over 35 years of rich experience in engineering, social and educational field, and is currently working with Genesis Tech Limited (CTL). He is actively associated with the Institution of Engineers India since 80s. He was Honorary Secretary of Nagpur Local Centre for 2 terms, past Chairman of Maharashtra State Centre and also Nagpur Local Centre. He was the Governing Council member of the Indian Concrete Institute for 1999 to 2001 and Council member from Civil Engineering Division of the Institution of Engineers India for 4 terms. Now I will request our President to deliver his presidential address.
Thank you, sir. Most respected Engineer Narendra Singh Ji, immediate past President of IAI, Dr. Sanjay Kumar Jain, Scientist G and Head, Water Resources and Systems Division, National Institute of Hydrology, Roorkee. Mr. Narendra Kumar Yadav, former Chief Engineer, Department of Irrigation, Uttarakhand, and former Managing Director, Uttarakhand Project Development and Construction Corporation Limited. Mr. Dharamchandra Arora Ji, Chairman, Uttarakhand State Centre. Mr. S.C. Chauhan, Honorary Secretary, Uttarakhand State Centre. Subhash Chandra Goyal, Chairman, Disaster Awareness and Management Forum, IAI, and moderator of this function, of this webinar. My council colleagues, members of CBDB, committee members of Uttarakhand State Centre, Saxena Ji and Aparna Datta from Technical Department of IAI, and dear participants. I consider it a great opportunity for all of us to be a part of technical webinar on a very contemporary topic, Glacial Lake Outburst Flood, being organized today at IAI Uttarakhand State Centre in virtual mode in association with Disaster Awareness and Management Forum IAI and National Institute of Hydrology, Roorkee. Due to prohibition in organizing physical meetings during COVID pandemic, institutions started series of technical webinars on special and topical issues to provide a virtual knowledge sharing platform for our members and many other professionals attached to the trade. The Institution of Engineers India has conducted many such technical webinars in virtual mode during last couple of years, with comprehensive coverage of various engineering topics which have witnessed enthusiastic participation from a wide range of professionals. Glacial Lake Outburst, which is popularly called as GLOF, is a phrase used to describe a sudden release of significant amount of water retained in a glacial lake, irrespective of the cause. Glacial lake outburst flood occurs when the dam containing a glacial lake fails. The sudden and intense flooding that results can be catastrophic for nearby communities. Direct causes of glacial lake outburst flood are rapid slope movement into the lake, heavy rainfall or snowmelt, cascading process, earthquake, melting of ice incorporated in dam forming the dam, including volcanic activity, blocking of subsurface outflow tunnels, which applies only to lakes without surface outflow or lakes with a combination of surface and subsurface outflow, and long-term dam degradation. A GLF may have diverse causes and subsequent mechanism, for example, according on how water is released. Specific clauses are related to specific mechanisms and not all their combinations are realistic scenarios. Moreover, specific subtypes of glacial lakes are susceptible to specific causes and subsequent mechanism of outburst flows. Numerous studies have investigated the causes of lake outburst floods for specific lake subtypes and regions. However, systematic investigation of the causes and mechanisms of GLOF as well as database collection are required in order to better understand the complex process and in turn provide more effective hazard and risk management. This webinar is being organized involving renowned panelists from academia, field, industry, and government officials to discuss the highlights and pertinent issues related to Glacial Lake outburst flood. The deliberations on these issues are expected to provide us more insights and leave us enraged. I hope the knowledge sharing session will be fruitful and interactive one. I wish this program all success. Jai Hind. Thank you all. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. President. Now I'll read out the brief sketch of Mr. Naren Singh, immediate past president. Engineer Naren Singh, a graduate in civil engineering from Monaco, now MNIT Allahabad, and postgraduate in irrigation and hydro from University of Roorkee. Engineer Singh served Government of Uttar Pradesh and Uttarakhand in irrigation and power department. He has vast experience in project implementation ranging from small to medium scale hydro projects in border Himalaya areas of India and major hydraulic structures, such as head and cross regulators, composite falls and aqueducts in Madhya Ganga Canal project. Mr. Naren Singh was instrumental in successful rehabilitation and resettlement of rural and urban families affected by the construction of Tiri Dam project, 1000 megawatt. His considerable efforts during his tenure with THDC India has won accolades, especially for his in-depth handling of this sensitive issue in the laid down time frame. Has rendered exceptional service to the Institution of Engineers in various capacities. Founder chairman of Uttarakhand State Center and is credited with the construction of a modern building for the center in cooperation with state government and PSUs. Engineer Naren Singh is also credited with focused efforts in promoting regional languages by first time publishing Abhiyanta Bandhu, a multilingual yearly journal of engineering papers, and a life sketch of Bharat Ratna Sir M. Vishveshwaraya in Hindi. He has also written a book on rehabilitation and resettlement of Tiri Dam on his experiences in Tiri Dam. Engineer Naren Singh is also recognized through various awards for his contribution to the engineering profession as well as for his involvement in social causes. He has been unanimously elected as the President of the Institution of Engineers India for the session 2019 and 2020, during centenary year of IEI. And he continued for one more year due to Corona pandemic. Over to Engineer Naren Singh, immediate past President IEI, for his deliberations, please.
So, Dr. Hemant Thakre ji, President Institution of Engineers India, Subhash Goyal ji, convener and moderator of this webinar, N.K. Yadav ji, Chief Engineer, retired Chief Engineer, S.K. Jain, from Senior Scientist, NIH Roorkee, Aparna Datta, Director from IEI, Kolkata, DC Arora, Chairman, Uttarakhand State Center, other delegates and stakeholders. It is a very nice webinar which has been organized by my friend Subhash Goyal on this platform of Disaster Awareness Forum. I am happy to state that I am a person who has got the maximum practical experience of lake burst, cloud burst area in the Himalaya region. I'll narrate everything because in my service of 38 years, I served 26 years in Himalaya range and where I've seen so many glaciers practically and how they burst and during the bursting, how the loss, disaster comes, flood comes in the area and then the basin of that glacier. Actually, First of all, I like to narrate that
अच्छा यहाँ
India is covered with largest glacier in सबसे पहले बताऊंगा लद्दाख में सबसे ज्यादा बड़ा ग्लेशियर्स हैं, सबसे बड़ा एरिया है हिमाचल प्रदेश, सिक्किम, उत्तराखंड। ये 4 राज्य ऐसे हैं जो ग्लेशियर बाउंड हैं और जिनमें मैक्सिमम ग्लेशियर्स हैं। और मैं ये बताना चाहता हूँ कि ग्लेशियर से ही हमारी जीवनदायिनी नदियां निकलती हैं, हम सिंचाई करते हैं, पानी पीने का करते हैं, जो भी जल हमें प्राप्त होता है ये ग्लेशियर एक भंडारण है। इनके पीछे लेक बन जाती है, ये ऊंची ऊंची टीले की तरह से खड़े हो जाते हैं। जब ये ग्लेशियर ग्लोबल वार्मिंग की वजह से गर्म होते हैं तो इनकी जो बॉटम है वो स्लो हो जाती है और वो डाउन होना शुरू हो जाती है और ये स्लोप पर जो उसका एक पीस टूट करके गिर जाता है, उसके ऊपर जो है बहुत बड़ी बाढ़ आती है, वो नदी चौपट हो जाती है, वो पहाड़ी एरिया बिल्कुल क्षतिग्रस्त हो जाता है और इतना बड़ा डिजास्टर होता है कि उसे कंट्रोल करने का टाइम नहीं होता। ये जैसा अर्थक्वेक सडन आता है, क्लाउड बर्स्टिंग जो है वो भी सडन ही होता है। आपको बताऊं कि जब मैं काम कर रहा था, मैं 1990 की एक घटना सुनाता हूँ। 1990 में पिथौरागढ़ एक जिला है, बॉर्डर डिस्ट्रिक्ट ऑफ उत्तराखंड, पिथौरागढ़। I was posted there as executive engineer in small hydro project। तो वहां पर हम 6 मेगावाट का एक प्रोजेक्ट बना रहे थे। उस जगह का नाम था सोबलादार प्रोजेक्ट। 6 मेगावाट का बन रहा था, वो जगह थी। उसके ऊपर जो तेजम ग्लेशियर होता था वहीं पर, जिससे धौली गंगा निकली है और धौली गंगा अल्टीमेटली ब्रांच ऑफ दिस काली नदी, एंड काली नदी जो आप जानते हैं शारदा रिवर बन जाती है प्लेन में आते हुए। तो शारदा रिवर की जो टॉप है उसका उद्गम है धौली गंगा, और धौली गंगा जो तेजम ग्लेशियर से निकली है जो पिथौरागढ़ में धारचूला से करीब 100 किलोमीटर 150 किलोमीटर आगे है, वहां पर यह स्थित है। 20,000 फीट की ऊंचाई पर स्थित है ये ग्लेशियर और ये लटका हुआ था। हमने पावर हाउस प्रोजेक्ट बना दिया, बिल्डिंग सब तैयार हो गई, पैन स्टाक लेआउट हो गया, एवरीथिंग प्रोजेक्ट वाज लाइकली टू कमीशन। इमीडिएटली ये क्लाउड बस्टिंग हुआ और उसकी वजह से क्लाउड बस्टिंग के साथ में ये ग्लेशियर टूट करके तेजम ग्लेशियर टूट कर आया। पूरा का पूरा सोबला पावर हाउस प्लांट और वहां का गांव जो है सोबला गांव पूरा वास हो गया। हमने देखते देखते आंखों में पूरा उड़ गया था। तो इस तरह के डिजास्टर्स जो हैं पहाड़ों में आते रहते हैं, ये कॉमन है। हर साल कोई ना कोई ग्लेशियर फटता है और वो जो है तबाही मचाता है। इन्हीं बातों को देखते हुए हमने ये इशू रखा था आई में कि जो पहाड़ी राज्य हैं उन्हें जो आपदाओं का बहुत बड़ा शिकार होना पड़ता है, उन्हें क्लाउड बस्टिंग का भी होना पड़ता है, उन्हें जो इसका अर्थक्वेक का भी शिकार होना पड़ता है उन्हें, और जो जंगल हैं उनमें आग है, फायर डिजास्टर का भी सामना करना पड़ता है। इसी तरह के उन्हें अनेकों तरह के फ्लड से रिलेटेड बहुत सारे डिजास्टर हर साल कोई ना कोई आता रहता और आपदाएं होती रहती है। इन्हीं आपदाओं के ऊपर जो आज इन्होंने बात की है ग्लेशियर्स की, तो मैं ये बताना चाहता हूँ कि गोमुख से जो है गोमुख ग्लेशियर है, वहां से गंगा नदी का वो हुआ है, वो ग्लेशियर जो गर्मी की वजह से पिघलता जा रहा है। इसलिए आपने देखा होगा कि गंगोत्री जो एरिया है जहां से गंगा जी आ रही है, वहां पर जो है गंगा जी का जल कम होता जा रहा है। ये ग्लोबल वार्मिंग के कारण ही ऐसा हो रहा है। इस तरह से गंगा नदी में कम हो गया और 2-3 बार ये टूटा है। जब भी टूटता है तो अब ये वार्निंग कर दिया गवर्नमेंट ने कि उसके किनारे बसे हुए जो भी लोग हैं, क्योंकि वहां पहाड़ी क्षेत्र की जो अगर आप आए देखें विषम परिस्थितियां रहती हैं। ज्यादातर जो गांव हैं वो नदियों के किनारे बसते हैं, क्योंकि नदियां बहुत गहरी हैं, तो क्योंकि अगर वो टॉप पर बसेंगे तो उन्हें पानी नहीं मिलेगा, इसलिए वो नदी के तली में बॉटम वैली शेप में गंगा के या यमुना के या अलकनंदा के किनारे किनारे बसते हैं। और जब फ्लड आती है या सडन आती है और पूरा एरिया वाश कर देती है। ये हो रहा है वहां पर। इसी तरह से गंगोत्री ग्लेशियर बताया मैंने, और बड़े ग्लेशियर वहाँ चोराबाड़ी ग्लेशियर। चोराबाड़ी ग्लेशियर जो है केदारनाथ घाटी में, केदारनाथ पहाड़ के ऊपर करीब 15 किलोमीटर ऊंचाई पर उससे जो है चोराबारी ग्लेशियर है। और आप सबने सुना होगा 16 जून 2013 की जो फ्लड आई थी वो चोराबारी ग्लेशियर के फटने से आई थी। अचानक जो क्लाउड बस्टिंग हुआ और उसी टाइम जो ये ग्लेशियर फट गया। ये जो लेक है जिसका नाम इस इंसिडेंट के बाद में गांधी लेक दिया गया है, इसमें एक ग्लेशियर गिरा और स्पिल हुई और स्पिल होने के बाद में जो झील स्पिल होते ही मंदाकिनी में फ्लैश फ्लड आई। और जिस मंदाकिनी को जो सर्व वो है जो केदारनाथ से निकलती है उसके अंदर जो है फ्लैश फ्लड आया, सारा केदारनाथ बह गया। करीब 5000 लोग मरे, यात्री मरे थे। मैं जरा उसके ऊपर जो है जो मैंने उस टाइम में एक राइटअप भेजा था, मैं उसकी 2 लाइन पढ़ देता हूँ। जलवायु एवं पर्यावरण की विविधता लिए हुए उत्तराखंड का संपूर्ण क्षेत्र प्राकृतिक आपदाओं से आए दिन प्रभावित रहता है। इस क्षेत्र में जहाँ एक और हिमालय पर्वत श्रृंखला का विस्तार है, वहीं दूसरी ओर पर्वतीय नदियों द्वारा लाई गई मिट्टी से बनाए गए उपजाऊ मैदान भी स्थित है। मतलब मैदानों को फायदा मिलता है लेकिन पहाड़ नष्ट हो जाते हैं। क्षेत्र की विशेष जलवायु के कारण यहाँ बाढ़, भूस्खलन, बादलों का फटना तथा वनाग्नि आदि घटनाएं निरंतर होती रहती हैं। अपनी स्थलीय संरचना के कारण यह राज्य बहुत संवेदन श्रेणी में आता है। यहाँ यूरेशियन और भारतीय प्लेट के मध्य में स्थित होने के कारण प्लेट विवर्तीकरण के कारण इस क्षेत्र में भूगर्भीय हलचलें हमेशा होती रहती है। प्राकृतिक आपदाएं प्रकृति के स्वतः ही उत्पन्न होती रहती हैं, जिसके परिणाम मानव के सामने अनंतन धन जन माल की हानि होती रहती है। आपदाओं के आने का सदैव डर बना रहता है। विगत कई वर्षों से इस क्षेत्र में प्राकृतिक आपदाओं और मानव जीवन को झकझोर कर रख दिया है। उत्तराखंड देवभूमि के रूप में जाना जाता है। हिंदुओं के लिए यह एक पवित्र धाम है। प्रत्येक हिंदू अपने जीवन काल में जिन 4 धार्मिक स्थलों पर यात्रा करने की अभिलाषा रखता है वे 4 धाम बद्रीनाथ, केदारनाथ, गंगोत्री, यमुनोत्री जो उत्तराखंड में स्थित हैं। इसके अलावा हरिद्वार, ऋषिकेश जैसे पवित्र स्थल भी इसी प्रदेश में स्थित है। 4 धाम मार्गों पर कई दर्शनीय स्थल हैं। पंचप्रयाग नाम के प्रसिद्ध अत्यंत पवित्र संगम स्थान यहाँ है। ये विष्णु प्रयाग, नंद प्रयाग, कर्ण प्रयाग, पिंडर आदि संगम स्थल यहाँ पर स्थापित है। इन धार्मिक स्थानों के अतिरिक्त प्रदेश में कार्बेट राष्ट्रीय, राजाजी नेशनल और फूलों की घाटी प्रमुख आकर्षण केंद्र हैं, जो कि हर साल अग्नि से प्रभावित होते रहते हैं। हर आजकल इतनी आगे लगी हुई है यहाँ पर, रोज आपदा ही आपदा आती रहती है। तो मैंने ये बताया आपको कि 16 जून 2013 को अलकनंदा में आई भीषण बाढ़ के कारण 5000 स्थानीय श्रद्धालुओं की बलि चढ़ गई थी। नदी में आई भीषण बाढ़ के कारण लगभग 3 लाख की आबादी तथा अनेक जनमानस लगातार एवं पशु प्रभावित हुए थे। अपार धन की हानि के साथ साथ 3 प्रमुख स्थल केदारनाथ, गौरीकुंड, रामबाड़ा लगभग नदी से पूर्ण रूप से समाप्त हो गए थे। ये देवी आपदा से समस्त राजमार्ग, सड़क, पैदल संचार, विद्युत सभी ध्वस्त हो गए थे। इसमें लगभग 15 किलोमीटर की दूरी पर चोराबारी नामक झील स्थित है। झील इस मंदाकिनी नदी का उद्गम स्थल है तथा अलकनंदा की यह पोषक नदी है जिसे चोराबारी झील के नाम से जाना जाता है। यहाँ पर यह भी उल्लेखनीय करना चाहूंगा कि केदारनाथ को बचाने वाली एक घटना घटी थी, वो मैं आपसे शेयर करना चाहूंगा कि इस आपदा के समय संयोगवश ऊपर से बह करके एक बड़ा शिलाखंड जिसका आकार 3 मीटर 4 मीटर बाय 10 मीटर के लगभग है आकर के केदारनाथ मंदिर के पीछे रुक गया था। शिलाखंड ने बाढ़ के समय मंदिर को सुरक्षा प्रदान की थी। यदि यह शिलाखंड मंदिर के पीछे न आता तो केदारनाथ मंदिर सुरक्षित नहीं रह पाता। इस शिलाखंड ने मंदिर को बहने से बचाकर श्रद्धालुओं की आस्था को जीवित रखा, जिसके कारण इसे आज उत्तराखंड के लोगों ने दिव्यशिला का नाम दिया है। इस देवी आपदा का संज्ञान लेते हुए, भयंकर देवी आपदा का संज्ञान लेने हेतु एक प्रस्ताव अपने मुख्यालय आई कोलकाता को भेजा गया था, जिसमें 28-29 जून को रांची में आयोजित काउंसिल बैठक में इसके ऊपर घोर दुख प्रकट किया गया था तथा हमारे राष्ट्रीय अध्यक्ष द्वारा 11 लाख रुपए का अनुदान स्वीकृत किया गया था। उत्तराखंड स्टेट सेंटर की ओर से स्वीकृत अनुदान धनराशि हमने माननीय मुख्यमंत्री को दिया था 27 जुलाई 2013 को आपातग्रस्त स्थितियों को उनके मुख्यमंत्री राहत कोष के लिए दिया था, जिसकी अखबार में बहुत भूरी प्रशंसा की गई थी कि उत्तराखंड में इंस्टीट्यूशन ऑफ इंजीनियर्स पहाड़ों में ग्लेशियर से और आपदाओं से रोकने के लिए बहुत सारे कार्य कर रही है। साथियों, इसी तरह अब जो ये मैंने पहले आपको तेजम यानी सोबला की दुर्दशा बताई जो मैंने देखी, दूसरी दशा ये बताई दुर्दशा जिसमें मैं काउंसिल में मेंबर था। उस समय हम लोगों ने अपनी यहाँ से टीम भेजी थी। हमने पहला सर्वे किया था 200 किलोवाट का बना बनाया जनरेटर, जो वहां कुछ भी नहीं था, वो इंस्टीट्यूशन ऑफ इंजीनियर्स ने अपने प्रयासों से वहां लगाया। वहां छोटे छोटे पुल बनवाए थे हमने ताकि लोग बाग वहां जा सके। बुदबू फैल रही थी, आदमी मरे पड़े हुए थे, दबे हुए थे, लेकिन इंस्टीट्यूशन ऑफ इंजीनियर्स ने अपनी भूमिका उस बाढ़ में निभाई थी। इसी प्रकार अब जो है 7 फरवरी 2021 को जो एक बाढ़ आई है धौली गंगा में, जो चमोली जिले की बाढ़ के नाम से जानी जाती है, वो कुछ नहीं है, केवल जो है गंगोत्री ग्लेशियर के फटने से, गंगोत्री ग्लेशियर फटकर धौली गंगा में गिरा। धौली गंगा जो है विष्णु गंगा का रूप है और विष्णु गंगा में जो है बाढ़ आई अल्टीमेटली अलकनंदा में। उसके ऊपर एनटीपीसी का एक प्रोजेक्ट है, उसमें टनल बन रही थी, टनल में मलबा घुस गया, उसमें 135 लोगों का आज तक पता नहीं है वो कहाँ गए, टनल में समा गए थे और फिर उनके नर कंकाल निकाले गए और 35 लोग एट दी स्पॉट उनकी डेथ हो गई थी। ये पिछले ही साल की 7 फरवरी की मैं बाढ़ की क्लाउड बस्टिंग के कारण बात कर रहा हूँ जो इस घाटी में घटी। इसी तरह मेरे को बहुत प्रैक्टिकल नॉलेज है, बहुत मैंने देखे हैं ग्लेशियर। मैं कहता हूँ कि सुभाष चंद्र गोयल ने ये सेमिनार वेबिनार जो आयोजित की है ये बहुत अच्छी है, रेलिवेंट है, सब तरफ भूरी प्रशंसा होती है। हमारा जो फोरा बन गया है, ये अभी चीफ मिनिस्टर साहब से बात हो गई है, उनको सम्मानित करेंगे। वो जो भी टास्क सौंपेंगे, क्योंकि हमें बाढ़ के लिए तैयारी करनी है, हमें ग्लेशियर को दबाव बनाए रखना है कि वह खड़े रहें वहाँ अपने स्थान पर, हमें पानी देते रहें, हमें जीवन देते रहें, हमारा जीवन ना ले, ये हमें प्रयास करने होंगे। क्योंकि ग्लेशियर जो हमें जीवन देता है पानी से और वो हमारी जीवन ले लेता है बाढ़ ला करके। साथियों, इस तरह से मैंने सियाचिन, पिंडारी, छोटा सिगरी, भेलू, सोना, बहुत सारे ग्लेशियर्स देखे उत्तराखंड में मिले। और पिंडारी ग्लेशियर पिथौरागढ़ में मैं पोस्टिंग के दौरान रहा हूँ। आप लोगों से भी निमंत्रण है मेरा, कभी आए और ग्लेशियर देखने में बहुत सुंदर पहाड़ के टीले लगते हैं। ये एक पहाड़ है, लेकिन अगर ये विकराल रूप ले ले तो ये तहस नहस कर देते हैं। पहाड़ों के लिए ये बहुत ही डरावनी स्थिति पैदा कर देते हैं। इन्हीं शब्दों के साथ बात को समाप्त करता हूँ। धन्यवाद, क्योंकि मैं अपने अनुभव के आधार पर ये आपको बात कही है। थैंक यू।
Thank you, Engineer Naren Singh, for your very nice deliberation. You have given your views on Glacial Lake Outburst in Uttarakhand, on especially the 16th June 2013 instance in Alaknanda River, where 5,000 people were killed in Kedarnath. And I want to tell to this August gathering that after this flood, we have made up our mind to set up a cell for disaster awareness and management cell to look after such type of things and to aware these type of incidents in future. Thank you, Mr. Naren Singh. Our panelist, second panelist is Dr. Sanjay Kumar Jain, our panelist. Dr. Sanjay Kumar Jain is currently serving as a scientist G and head in the Water Resources Systems Division of National Institute of Hydrology, Roorkee, and nodal officer World Bank aided National Hydrology Project. He did his BTech from NIT Allahabad in 1986, MS in Hydrology from National University of Ireland, Galway, Ireland in 1997, and PhD from IIT Roorkee in 2001. He is working in the field of remote sensing and GIS for the last 33 years. His area of specialization is snow, glacier, melt runoff modeling, glacier changes, and glacier lake outburst modeling. Application of remote sensing and GIS in reservoir sedimentation, river morphology. Dr. Sanjay Kumar Jain is a recipient of the Best Scientist Award of NIH in year 1999. He has received Excellence Award 2018 Industrial Research of the Institution of Engineers India in the year 2020. He appeared in the global list of top 2 scientists in the field of work. This list was published by Stanford University, USA. Stanford University is one of the best universities of United States. He has published 61 papers in peer-reviewed international journals, 32 in national journals, and 76 in international national conferences. He has contributed to numerous research and consultancy projects and international and national papers. Dr. Jain's group has developed a software package for snowmelt runoff modeling and has set up an experimental basin in the Upper Ganga Basin. Over to Dr. Sanjay Kumar Jain for your deliberation, please.
Thank you, Dr. Goyal. First of all, I would like to thank Institution of Engineers, Uttarakhand State Center, for giving me this opportunity to talk on this occasion of a webinar on Glacial Lake Outburst Flood, which is being organized by Disaster Awareness and Management Forum. As Engineer Naren Singh ji told that in 2013 there was a heavy flood because of breaching of Chorabari Lake, and last year also we have seen one glacier hazard event. So keeping in view these events like Chorabari Lake outburst flood, NDMA also prepared guidelines in the year 2020 in which NIH was part, and I also contributed in those guidelines. So now for the last, I can say, after the event of 2013, especially this particular aspect of Glacial Lake outburst flood is very important, and this webinar is very timely on this important topic of Glacial Lake outburst flood. So I'll speak on that. We started working on this problem of Glacial Lake outburst flood in the year 2009 when we received one request from NHPC to estimate the flood if there is any breaching of a lake in the catchment of their hydropower project. So we are working in this area for the last about 12-13 years. So I'll share some of my experience and some of the aspects which we have to deal with this aspect of Glacial Lake outburst flood. So we have seen number of water-related disasters in Himalayas, and glacial lake outburst flood is one of them. And before going into this aspect of glacial lake outburst flood, I would like to mention here that we have a lot of glacier and cryospheric resources in our three major basins, that is Indus, Ganges, and Brahmaputra. And the total 64% of our country is contributed by these three basins. So these basins are very important from snow and glacier melt runoff point of view, because we are getting most of the water in northern India for irrigation, hydroelectric power, and drinking water supply, etc., from this important source. And we can see that we have thousands of glaciers in these three basins. And number of times the inventory of these glaciers have been prepared, and we have seen that most of the glaciers, like maybe more than 90% of the glaciers, are retreated. And because of that, the glacial lakes are increasing. So we can say in the last 30 years or so, there are increase in the glacial lakes, and which is causing this glacial lake outburst flood. So we have to study this snow and glaciers and glacial lake with the new technology, techniques, and modeling techniques to monitor and then to see the impacts of these resources. So as I have said that there are a number of natural disasters, and we have seen in Uttarakhand, we are also studying this important aspect of cloudburst, flash flood, glacial lake outburst, landslide events, earthquake, avalanche. So we can say that 2021 incident was more or less avalanche. There was a detachment of a glacier mass, and because of that, that disaster happened. So these types of flash floods, they based on the underlying processes. We can say that because of intense rainfall floods, landslide, dam burst, outburst floods, glacial lake outburst floods. So there are a number of these type of floods which we have to deal in Himalayan region. And as we know that to deal with this flash flood risk, we can go for structural measures as well as non-structural measures. In non-structural measures, we have to delineate the area which is affected by the flood, which will be generated like from glacial lake breaching. So those areas, if we can demarcate and we can warn the people living in that area, so we can avoid the damage which will be caused by these type of glacial lake outburst flood. In 2013, we have seen the more damage was because the structures and the people living beside the banks, they were most affected. So coming to these glacial lakes and glacial lake outburst floods. So glacial lakes, if we can say that in Himalayan regions, they are formed due to the melting of ice and snow from glaciers. And as I've said earlier, the glaciers are melting faster. Therefore, there is a possibility that these lakes will grow or increase in size. And because of overtopping of these lakes, there will be sudden outburst, and which we call as glacial lake outburst flood. And that will cause the destruction of life and property in the downstream area. So GLOF is very important because a number of hydroelectric projects are there in Himalayan region, and some of them are coming up. So we have to see how much flood these power projects will get in case there is a breaching of a lake which is located in their catchment area. And these lakes are increasing, there is a strong possibility of breaching. So therefore, for the safety of these hydroelectric projects, especially, and the settlement, of course, living in the downstream area, we have to see the GLOF events. Now, coming to these glacial lakes and glacial lake outburst flood, we have to go for glacial lakes mapping first. This is our first step in case we have to study the glacial lake outburst flood. So we have to identify all the lakes in that particular area which we are studying. And then the next step is identification of vulnerable lakes, because there are thousands of lakes and all of them are not vulnerable. Most of them are located in safe zone, I can say, and they are not vulnerable. So we have to identify the vulnerable lakes. Maybe in a catchment there may be 2 or 3 or 4. And then we have, and that basis I will cover briefly in my presentation further. And then we have to go for near real-time monitoring of selected lakes and regular detection of moraine. This moraine is a loose material, rock material, which sometimes causes the blockage of the water which is coming from glaciers. And this moraine is a loose material. Therefore, there is a more chances of breaching of this type of moraine dam lakes. So we have to go for near real-time monitoring. And then further we have to go for Glacial. There are a number of models which we can use to see how much water it will generate in case there is a breaching of a lake, and if that lake breaches, how much area it will inundate along the river course in the downstream area. So we can see here one of the lake which is vulnerable lake, and we recently studied this lake for one of the project of SJVNL that is located in Chenab Basin. So we can see that this particular lake is one of the lake which is increasing in the size. Now, to study this glacial lake outburst flood, we have to see also the glacier changes. So here, just in one slide, I am showing that number of glaciers are retreating. Like we have studied one basin in Satluj, and we have found that in this particular basin, about 20 to 25% area have been deglaciated over the last 30 years. So here we can see in the last picture that we have done through satellite remote sensing. So here we can see the purple color in the last shows the area which have been earlier glacier covered, but now there is no glacier. So we have to see that. And here we can see on the satellite data, because we have to make an inventory on the basis of satellite data of the catchment. This is one of the catchment which is located in Bhutan, Himalaya. This project we did for NHPC. So here we can identify number of lakes in this particular area, the black spots or blue spots which you are seeing here. And one of the lake which is there that is called as Chugda Glacial Lake, it is increasing in the size, and that we can map through remote sensing. So here we can see that how it is increasing over the years since 1990. And we can visualize here, and we have to delineate this lake through image processing, and then we can see the increase in the size area. So we can say that this particular lake have increased about 3 times over the years. So this is one of the criteria on the basis of which we can identify whether that particular lake is vulnerable or not. So quickly I will go through some this categorization of lakes, because once we have identified all the lakes in that particular area, we have to see what type of lake that is. So we have to classify those lakes. So one classification is erosion lakes. I'll go quickly because I have to cover some more aspects. Moraine dam lakes. So these are the lakes which are most vulnerable because they are made because of the blockage of glacier melt water from the moraine, which is loose material. So the chances of breaching of this type of lake, which is made of a very loose material, is more, because once there is a pressure of water, and if water level is increasing, then chances of failure of these lakes are more. Supraglacial lakes are generally considered as a safe lake, but suppose there is fragmentation of merging of lakes, then there may be chances of breaching of these lakes, but generally they are not vulnerable. Then blocking lakes and ice dam lakes. So these are the different lakes. So once we have prepared an inventory, then we have to identify these lakes which are vulnerable on the basis of this. So the criteria which we have to apply. Once we are having number of lakes, then of course first criteria is rise in lake water level. Just I have shown that in case of Chugda Glacial lake, it was increasing over the years. So we have to see the lake water level rise. Then activity of supraglacial lakes. Then position of lake, that is also very important. If the potentially dangerous lakes are generally, they are in the lower part of the ablation area of the glacier, where we are getting more melting at the near to the end more. Okay, and the valley lakes with area bigger than 0.1 square kilometer, a distance less than 0.5 kilometer from the mother glacier, which is feeding to that particular lake. So that position is also very important. Then the dam condition, because of which that lake have been generated. If the dam is narrower in the crest area, there is no drainage outflow. That is completely blocked. If there is little bit water which is coming out of that lake, then the chances of getting it overfilled is less. So there is no drainage outflow. Steeper slopes of the moraine walls, ice core, very tall. So all these dam conditions we have to see before saying that this particular lake is vulnerable or not. Condition of associated mother glacier, that also a very important criteria. If there is any hanging glacier in contact with the lake, though in case of Chorabari Lake there was no hanging glacier, but there was a hanging ice mass which fed in that particular lake on that day, and because of that there was a overflowing of that water. And of course there were other reasons also. Bigger glacier, if the lake is fed by a bigger glacier, yes, so there will be chances of getting more and more water with the retreating, fast retreating. Debris cover at the glacier tongue area. So all that we can study through remote sensing data, and on the basis of that, then we can identify that this particular lake is a vulnerable lake. Okay, physical conditions of the surroundings. There is chances of snow avalanches, whether it is in the earthquake prone zone, climatic conditions, etc., etc. So these are some of the criteria which we have to see. So on the basis of that, then we can identify the vulnerable lake, and then we have to study that. Then the one more step which we have to see, or which have been considered in those guidelines also of NDMA, that is awareness. I can say that after the disaster of 2013, most of the people came to know that this is also one of the disaster. Before that, most of the people were not knowing that this glacial lake breaching may be there, and this may be one of the disaster. So local communities are, especially like the people living in that particular area, so we have to make them aware to deal with this disaster. So awareness for vulnerable communities through electronic, print, and social media, participation of communities through discussion forums, mock drills, like you can see one of the picture here, in which in school that mock drills, because if there is any this type of event, so that early warning system, I'll come to that more of it. Then the preparedness, in case this type of disaster happens, then we have to be fully prepared. So all that aspects have been dealt in detail in those guidelines. So the preparedness is nothing but measures taken to reduce and mitigate the effects of a disaster. So there are structural support like embankments, artificial drainage, etc. But we have to go for non-structural measures. Like we have to have the floodplain delineation, how much area will be affected. So that is a non-structural measures, and they are of helping, like to deal with if there is any flood, then how we can save the life of the property. So this is the preparedness in case of there is a disaster. Then the capacity building, that is also very important, whether it is in the field of modeling or the local community or the local administration. So we have to have the pre-trained evacuation team of volunteers of the Mitra, generation of training manuals, integration, regulation, and enforcement of risk reduction government schemes, maximum use of capacity building programs of SDM, local authorities. So all that is also very important. If they are trained, then they can deal with this type of disaster after the event. And this is again very important if we can warn the people. That is the early warning system, development and installation of instruments and early warning system. So we have to have site suitability analysis for installation of AWLR, AWS at vulnerable lakes and river water level monitoring, establishment of seamless communication. Because we have seen that in high altitude regions, sometimes communication is a problem through, say, mobile. We are not getting network. So seamless communication, if we are having in those areas, then we can warn the people. Danger signboards, generation of early warning with alarm and evacuation protocols. So this we have to have if we have to reduce the disaster with this type of events. And I will just quickly demonstrate early warning system. That is nothing but we have to have AWS and AWLR and monitoring every 15 minutes. If the water level is increasing, yellow is alert level, red is alarm level. So we have to have the water level recorder there. And if water level increases, colors of water level data will turn yellow. Then control room, dissemination of information to all the stakeholders. If the water level further increases, color of water will data will turn red, and then alarm will switch on. So this is a simple example of early warning system which we can install in case there is a chances of breaching of that particular lake. Then there are some mitigation measures, and these measures which I am showing you here is one of the lake which is located in Sikkim. So the controlled breaching of the lake we can do. Pumping or siphoning of the water from the lake we can means we have to take out the water from the lake so that there is no means less chances or no chances of overtopping of that lake. So this type of mitigation measures, if we are taking in those vulnerable lakes, then we can reduce the chances of breaching of those lakes. Then the next is regulation and reinforcement. That is again very important, because we are not, there are regulations, rules and regulations, but they are not being followed in the field. So this is one of the this thing because of which the area is getting more affected. So regulation and enforcements are required, that no habitation, construction zone in the law of hazard area, etc., etc. So that is again very important. Then this is the emergency action plan. Then topography through digital elevation model, river cross sections, reservoir and dam data, design flood of dam, then Glacial modeling. So all that we have to do in the case of Glacial Lake Outburst flood model, and then the emergency action plan. Recently, NRSC, National Remote Sensing Center, it is a department under ISRO, they have prepared Glacial Lake Outburst flood or Glacial Lake lakes in those basins. As I have said that there are three basins in which that all the Himalayan region is covered. So they have already prepared and released one atlas in 2020 of Indus River Basin. All the glacial lakes have been demarcated in this particular lake and the vulnerable lakes in all the catchments of Indus. Similarly, in Ganga Basin, the atlas have been prepared by NRSC. And the third one for Brahmaputra, it is under progress. So this type of regular mapping and monitoring of these lakes, and they are monitoring some of the lakes regularly on the basis of the satellite data. So this is very much required, and NRSC is agency which is dealing with this glacial lake mapping and all that. In our institute, we are doing mainly the glacial lake outburst flood simulation. So as I have said that for that purpose, we are doing glacier and glacial lake mapping. Then we have to see the drainage network, which is followed by that glacial lake and length of the stream, downstream of that lake. To see the topography, digital elevation model, which we can get through satellite data, and on the basis of which we can draw the cross sections. We have to see whether there is a flat area or there is a steep area and all that. Those cross sections we have to draw. Area and volume of the lake, how much water is stored in that lake, and if in case that lake breaches, how much water it will generate. Though this we are doing on the basis of certain formulae, which are giving us that area, because the extent of the lake we can get from the satellite data, but not the depth. And sometimes it is not possible to reach up to that side of the lake, and we cannot get the depth. So using certain formulae, then we can get the volume of the lake and how much breach width will be there. So all that aspects we have to consider when we are talking about the simulation. So just quickly, one simulation which we have carried out recently for one of the lake in Satluj Basin, I am showing you here. So we have to identify the lake. You can see on the first picture there. Then we have drawn the cross sections till that point where we have to found the this flood which will be generated. So here we can see that volume and depth, etc. we have computed in that Satluj Basin. And this is the overall after the simulation which we got, the inundation. So we can see here downstream of that lake how much area it is affected. So we have taken the cross sections, the local topography, the volume of the lake, the drainage, etc. And at different point, how much will be the flood? So we can say here that the peak flood at the lake side will be 4,507 cubic, which will be mitigated to bridge site up to 3,029, settlement 1, 2,672. So that much flood will be generated, and how much time it will take, you can see in the last one. So how much time it will take to reach to that particular settlement? One. So the settlement, which is located 44 kilometers downstream of that lake, about 2.5 hours it will take to reach that much of flood at that particular point. So we are getting that much of time to deal with. If we can warn within that time to the people living in that settlement one, so we can say that the flood which will be generated by that lake is of that magnitude at that particular site, and the evacuation plan, etc., can be prepared. So that we have also shown on the Google Earth images, which is of very high resolution of the order of 1 meter. So here we can see in different parts how much area will be affected by that flood in different regions. So that type of map we have to prepare for all the vulnerable lakes, so that we can have in our hand the area which will be most affected, and we can give these maps to the local authority, to local administration, etc., so that they can prepare the evacuation plan. Before this presentation, Naren Singh ji told about this Chorabari Lake breach, which happened in 2013, and we can see here how much area was affected by that flood. And we also visited 2 times this lake. In 2013, again we visited. There was a meeting in Dehradun with the irrigation minister, Shri Satpal Maharaj ji took that meeting, and engineer N.K. Yadav ji was also there. And there this issue was again discussed, and a point was discussed at that time that this lake is again filling. So we visited after that meeting this area, and we found that now this lake is empty, and there is no the storage of water in this particular lake. And we can see the point also where that lake breached, and all the water is stored in that particular lake suddenly fell to the downstream area. So if we see the rainfall, the reason quickly I can show you here. So that also we have to keep in mind, the rainfall. So before that event, there was that much of rainfall in that area. But in those 2 days, you can see in the red bar, the rainfall was of 300 millimeter in these 2 days on that area. So you can see here that a lot of rainfall occurred, which further filled the lake. Okay, and of course there was a I can say avalanche type of thing was there, because of which that incident happened on that day. So here you can see the Rambada, which again Engineer Singh was telling on the first image. There was a town just downstream of that temple, and after the event you can see there was nothing in the second image. So that all the village of Rambada was washed out because of that disaster. In the third one, then the damage that was there in that area. And if we can see that lake now, or after the event, it was totally empty. And then we have seen that the height difference was about 20 meters. So 20 meters of depth of that lake was there, which suddenly that much heavy volume of water suddenly came out of that lake and devastated that downstream. So average discharge at that time was about 1200 cubic, and the lake was emptied in 5 to 10 minutes. So this was that. So we can see here that in 42 hours, Dehradun received record amount of 595 mm. In the whole area, there was heavy rainfall during that 2 days, and extreme events with rare combination of 2 active systems, westerlies and southwest monsoon. This extreme event was not only intense but also extensive in almost 5 districts of Uttarakhand. Chaurabari Lake, upstream of Kedarnath, about 2 kilometers, breached for a length of about 60 to 64 meters in V shape, indicating overtopping, followed by deep incision. If we can see here, this was V-shape breaching of that lake. So in the 4th October, we have also seen. So V-shape breaching was there of that particular lake, and all the water came out of that breaching. So the total volume, which was estimated, was 7.1 and 10 to the power 4 meter cube. So all that, some analysis was done. We have carried out for some of the hydroelectric projects this type of studies for NHPC, THDC, for one Uttarakhand state government also, then JSW, SJVNL, UG, means number of studies have been carried out. And in those studies, we have given the flood which will come at their project site. So here we can see that about 5,000 cubic will come to the project site. In this another, it was 6,821, and the time. Then in Lachung, this is in Sikkim. So there were 3 projects which were coming up in that area. So they have given this study, and then we have found how much flood will be generated in case there is a breaching of lake. As these projects are made for some design flood, so we have to consider, in addition to that design flood, how much flood will be generated because of the breaching of those lakes. So that flood that will come to that project site, that we have given. So that has to be considered to deal with this type of situation. To tackle means to see if that much of flood will come. So they have to design their projects keeping in mind the flood which will be generated from these glacial lakes. This is Twang in Arunachal Pradesh. So these studies we have carried out for number of hydroelectric companies. So these are the guidelines which have been released by NDMA, which have been prepared by a number of agencies, by NDMA and Swiss Agency for Development, in which number of agencies contributed, and we coordinated this activity. And these are the guidelines in which 10 chapters have been given. So I will not go through these chapters, but we can see here the regions, the glacial lake inventory, etc. have been dealt in first chapter, Himalayan geo environment, then hazard risk donation mapping, which is very important, that has been dealt in chapter 3, then risk reduction and mitigation measures, awareness and preparedness program, capacity development, responses, then research and development, and regulation and reinforcement, and implementation. That is the most important part. If we are implementing those guidelines, then we can reduce or tackle this disaster of glacial lake outburst flood. And in the end, I will say that strategic plan for implementation of various activities in the guidelines needs to be devised at the state and central level. In the guidelines, short-term, medium-term, and long-term plans have been provided with action from the agencies which can deal with this GLOF, like ITBP, local administration, the hospital, means the medical facilities. So all that, what will be the responsibility of each agency, that has been given in these guidelines. So this is covered in 10 chapters, and we can see the issue of glacial lake outburst flood and deal of this how to deal with this glacial lake outburst flood. That all have been given, and it is available on the website of NDMA. So just I will conclude my talk with that the climate warming or global warming, there is chances or will increase the frequency and risk of loss. So therefore, regular mapping and monitoring of lakes are needed. Then potentially dangerous lakes or vulnerable lakes must be provisionally identified and prioritized for further investigation. Potentially dangerous lakes must be monitored on a continuous basis. We are making inventory on the basis of satellite images, the resolution, the size of the data which we are getting through satellite. That also plays an important role. If we are having high resolution time series satellite data, they are useful for this purpose. And finally, appropriate measures to reduce the potential risks from these lakes, we have to have like early warning system, or how to mitigate, how we can reduce the level of that water, etc., etc. So that is very important. With that, I am thankful and thank you very much. And I suppose that we will take question and answer, means questions in the after the presentation of Engineer N.K. Yadav. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Sanjay Jain. And you have given a very nice presentation by giving types and causes of flash flood, management of flash flood risk, different type of glacial lake outburst, and then glacial lake mapping, monitoring and modeling, changes in glaciarized areas with the example of Baspa River Basin, associated Mother Glacier, glacial lake outbursts, flood के विषय में और सब चीजों में अवगत कराया. Then you discussed about preparedness for this glacier lake, capacity building, development of installation of instruments and EWS, mitigation measures, emergency action plan, and GLOF simulation. Inundation due to breaching of lake. Then he narrated studies conducted at various places due to outburst of glacier, and ग्लेशियर के आउटबर्स्ट से बचने की गाइडलाइंस पर आपने प्रकाश डाला. डॉक्टर एस के जैन, आपका बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद. Our next panelist is Mr. Narendra Kumar Yadav. I believe his brief introduction. Mr. Narendra Kumar Yadav retired as Chief Engineer from Uttarakhand Irrigation Department and Managing Director of Uttarakhand Project Development and Construction Corporation Limited. He completed his graduation in Mechanical Engineering in the year 1983 from University of Roorkee, now IIT Roorkee. After graduation, he worked at the paper and material handling plant of Larsen and Toubro Limited. He joined UP Irrigation in the year 1986. He has vast experience in the hydromechanical and hydrostructural works, including groundwater exploration and drilling, deep tube wells in Bhabar area, operation and management of state tube wells, and design, fabrication, erection of hydromechanical equipments, gates, penstock, etc. Some of the notable projects completed under his supervision are Shiv Dhanush Bridge, Har Ki Paidi, Haridwar. For the construction of Shiv Dhanush Bridge, Har Ki Paidi, Haridwar, he received compliments from all over the world, all over India. Whosoever used to come to Haridwar for taking a holy dip in Ganga, he used to remember Mr. N.K. Yadav for his notable work for this construction of Shiv Dhanush Bridge. Now I will request Mr. N.K. Yadav to deliver his lecture. अरे यार ये तो यहाँ तक आवाज गुजर रही है इसकी.
यादव जी आपकी आवाज नहीं आ रही है।
Mr. Narendra Kumar Yadav, can you hear me?
यादव जी अनम्यूट कर लीजिए, अनम्यूट।
Mr. Yadav is not muted, but I think he is facing some problem in his microphone.
1 minute, I'm going to see him.
Now you're listening? Just I am sharing the screen. Actually, some technical problem came in the laptop.
Now your voice is clear.
Hey, voice is clear, na sir?
Now it is clear. Now you can start.
Actually, just you wait. Just I am sharing just screen. Some problem is there. Dr. Sanjay Kumar Jain actually has given a elaborate this examples and about this globe in not in Uttarakhand but all other parts of this India and other hydro projects actually before June 13 actually we are not aware about this globe, that how much the discharge, how much the quantity of water will come by हेलो
दे नहीं रहा है इसमें ना, अलाउड नहीं कर रहा।
यहाँ शेयर करो, डेस्कटॉप
ये ओपन नहीं हो रहा है। आप ऐसे डिलीट करिए, मैं ट्रायल करता हूँ।
ऐसे कैसे करेंगे इसको?
मैं सर्कल में देखता हूँ, फिर उधर वाले बैठ जाएंगे, सर्कल में बैठ जाएंगे। सर्कल में शेयर करता हूँ पहले। इनके में नहीं, अरोड़ा
सर।
Mr. Yadav, you can speak.
I am speaking actually because this you not able to share actually some problem came in our this computer. This glacial lake, this outburst flood. Actually, when this Kedarnath tragedy came in June 13 and 16 and 15, lot of this heavy discharge and flood came. And by this consideration, why these films, why these lakes were formed, how many lakes were formed in the upper area of the Kedarnath, this valley, and a lot of people were died with the tragedy of due to this glacial lake outburst flood. So, my dear friends, in respect of this Kedarnath and Uttarakhand, I have prepared this note. And we have visited after this glacial lake, June 13 flood, and we have completed our this project of Dharashu because of this flash floods, or this Maneri Valley stage 2 project also stopped for more than 1 month. उधर जोड़ो वहाँ है सर नहीं वो स्क्रीन नहीं शेयर हो रहा है अच्छा स्क्रीन नहीं शेयर हो रहा है तो या हो गया हाँ इसको बोल दो ये कर दे यहाँ पे इसको यू कैन नॉट स्टार्ट स्क्रीन शेयर
स्लाइड शो
ये कुछ वहाँ शेयर कर रखा लग रहा है उसमें वहाँ तो शेयर आ रहा है उसमें आ जाओ देखो शेयर हो रहा हो तो वो शेयर हो रहा है
आ रहा है सर
आ रहा है सर
हाँ भी दिखाई दे रहा है आप स्लाइड शो मोड में चले जाइए ऊपर स्लाइड शो लिखा है ना टॉप पर स्लाइड शो इससे ऊपर फर्स्ट लाइन
स्क्रीन तो शेयर होना शुरू हो गया
हाँ अभी करा है
इसको आप शुरू करें
यहाँ से निकाल के करवाना
नहीं नहीं इधर ही बुलाएंगे सर को अभी
अच्छा इधर बुलाओ
हाँ इधर ही बुला लीजिए
एक मिनट
स्लाइड शो ये स्लाइड शो फ्रॉम द बिगिनिंग नो गो टू फ्रॉम बिगिनिंग कैंसिल इट
आप
एंड
नहीं यू
फ्रॉम द बिगिनिंग यस
hello sir I am speaking on our chairman's rooms actually the outburst this flood hazard assessment Uttarakhand आवाज आ रही है सर
हाँ आवाज आ रही है आपकी
sir the major disasters in Himalaya because of these three reasons. One is the terrestrial, second is the atmospheric, and third the man-made.
तो चालू होगी दुकान इसकी
हाँ नहीं तो गड़बड़ा गया
In terrestrial, these earthquakes are there. In Uttarakhand, a lot of these earthquakes came. That's why a lot of damages of the roads and other structures. And in atmospheric, this is the flash floods and debris flow, the landslides, the mass movements, the globe, glacial lake outburst flood, avalanches, drought, thunder windstorm, and hailstorm. And third one is the man-made, that is the fire, forest fire, and all these things. I will show the different pictures that has been taken by different agencies, from remote sensing agencies, that will show the havoc of this glacial lake outburst flood. What is this glacial lake outburst flood, and why it happened all of a time in not on the Uttarakhand but in all other hilly states also? They are formed there are varieties of such lakes ranging from meltwater ponds on the surface of the glacier to the large lakes inside valley dammed by a glacier in the main valley. Second is that these lakes normally drain their water through seepage in front of the retreating glaciers. And third one is the moraine creates topographic depression in which the meltwater generally accumulated, leading to formation of glacial lakes. Such moraine damaged lakes appear to the most common type of glacial lakes, not in Uttarakhand but in other these hilly states of northern India. Flash floods caused by the outburst of glacial lakes called the globe are well known in Himalayan, where such lakes had often been formed, and landslides are also there. Globe having immense potential of flooding in downstream areas, causing disastrous consequences due to the release of large volume of water in a very short interval of such moraine dams, lakes Failure of these ice and moraine dams leading to disastrous destruction event has been documented throughout the world. Flash flood caused by the outburst of the lakes called the Globe are well known in Himalayan, where such lakes had often been formed in landslides there. Globe have immense potential of flooding in downstream areas, causing disastrous consequences due to the release of large volume of water in a very short interval of time. And here are the different types of globes, causes of outburst for number one, the glacier ice dams, second in the moraine dams, and third one in the ice core moraine dams. In glacier ice dams, ice melts, glacier retreats, tunnel under ice, overtopping caused by the upper glacier, calving ice fall or rock fall. And second in the moraine dam, it is due to the piping. Second in the overtopping, because sometimes when lake is filled with the water, then it overturns, overtopping caused by the upper glacier calving, ice flow or rock fall. And third one is the ice core moraine dam. Ice core melts resulting in the piping and overtopping caused by the upper glacier calving, half ice fall or rock fall. These pictures I will show that before this Chorabari glaciers, before and after, I have taken some pictures that see the moraine dams are there, and these are the Chorabari lakes. The two streams are there. This is a Kedarnath temple, and this is the lakes filled with water and this ice, and these are the Himalayas covered with all this ice. And first one is that comes in our mind when this globe or glacier or Kedarnath Ras became, that was the Chorabari lake. The length of this glacier lake is around 7 kilometers. This altitude is 3,800 meters. Base camp is Sonpriyag, district Rudraprayag and Garhwal. The enormous Chorabari glacier, also known as Chorabari Bammak glacier, is situated in the Garhwal Himalaya, Uttarakhand. This glacier is very close to the Kedarnath. One of the two snouts of this glacier, such as the prominent source for Mandakini, which is tributary of Alaknanda River. The Chorabari lies between the latitude 30, 44 and 50 north and 30, 45 north and longitude this much. The glacier has a length of 7 kilometers. The basin area of the glacier is around 38 square meters. Because this is the large glacier lake close to the Kedarnath, and that formed with the lake ice and the moraine. I will show some other pictures that you will understand that how much the enormous water that flows from this Chorabari glacier caused the havoc damage to our Kedarnath, not only the temple but all the valley also, and a lot of this. What exactly held on June 16, my dear friends? I will tell you that how much the rain, how much the total thunderstorm or the cloudburst rain came in just 24 hours. There was a rainfall. That's why Sanjay Jain Sahab has, by the picture on the graph, 120 millimeter in 24 hours, flash flood of June 13 at Kedarnath. The town and the glacier above is around 3 kilometers apart, as there was no automatic weather stations. No data has been collected from satellites. As now, after this June 13 flood, automatic weather stations also being positioned or stationed in the areas near to the Kedarnath and other Himalayan valleys also. And the irrigation department also has actually this installed a laboratory in IRA Roorkee, and their automatic weather stations, the data will be collected there. There is an evidence that a small lake was formed during the rains above Kedarnath town. The lake must have lasted for short duration. It was 100 square hectare lake which contained 10 million liters of water. The lake burst due to the breach in the blockade that formed in its boundary. I will show in the picture that how this is the breach came when this lake, the Chorabari lake, actually overturned. Not only overturned, but it also breached from the downside also. It's because of the lake that there was an excess steam runoff, and the third channel was formed. I will show in the picture here. These pictures show that how much the losses and how much the enormous water actually flows not only in the Kedarnath valley, but you will see on the right side also in Rishikesh, where our Lord Shivaji's idol actually that was also immersed in the water, and it was stationed on a platform, but due to this flood, that was also came on one side. This lead to the melting of Cholabari Glacier at the height of, just I have told you, 3,800 meters, and eruption of the Mandakini River, which led to the heavy floods near Kedar Dome, Rudraprayag district, Uttarakhand. It is considered to be the largest natural disaster after Tsunami occurred in 2000. My dear friends, because there was a necessary to study about the globes, how it forms, then the remedies are the state governments, the preventive measures that has been taken by the state government, the disaster management cells, and the central government of India, so that in future we can minimize the losses of the life, the losses on the properties, and losses of our natural minerals, this hilly areas also. Why this collapse? Moraine Dam, Chorabari Lakes. How it collapsed? I will show the picture here also. The main cause of Chorabari Lake collapse was torrential rain, that is around 120 milliliter in just 24 hours on between 15th and 17th of June. The second, due to the heavy rainfall, glacier which is thickly covered by snow rapidly melted due to the rainwater. Because, my dear friends, here I want to tell you, because this was the rain, heavy rain, the torrential rain, cloudburst. The second was due to the climate change, the temperature rise and the glacier melt all of a sudden very suddenly. So there was no outlet in the lake. Water was simply released through narrow passage at the bottom. Here I will show, this is the lake actually, and I will show in the next picture the narrow escape, and that was just a piping. And gradually, when the water could not release due to this piping, that all of a sudden this lake outburst and overflowed, and a flash flood came downstream, and that was main cause for the damages on Kedarnath Valley up to the Rambala, and later on up to the Rudraprayag and Rishikesh. Suddenly, millions of gallons of water accumulated in Moraine Dam lake within 3 days, which increased their potential energy and reduced shear strength of dam. Ultimately, Luj Moraine Dam breached, causing an enormous devastation in Kedarnath Valley. I will show in another picture here also. Chorabari Lake before disaster. I will say that a lot of water is there, and this is the moraine wall. You will see here moraine, and this is the burst point here, my dear friends. How it was? Because it was a loose moraine, loose material, and this lake is formed around at the height of this and around 7 kilometers in length also. Now see a view toward the dam breach that enabled the catastrophic flood from Chorabari Lake on June 13th. See, this is the how this lake is. Picture A, B, and C. You will see that lot of this moraines and a lot of these streams came downstream and causing a heavy loss. I will show here. In picture here, you see before it is here, and this is after. I will show you. In one, actually, water comes from glacier is a single stream. You will say, my friends, here it is only a single stream. Then two, large amount of debris lies on the path of this water. Number two, per here you will see that it is a large amount of debris, and due to this, the water flows from these two sides. Earlier it was one stream. Then three, you will see water moves down in two streams, one and this in the another. And fourth is the water moves along these thin channels. ये again इसके किनारे आप देखेंगे, there are the thin channels and water move through this, and this is the Kedarnath here, Kedarnath settlement. And here in this picture you will see the channel of water has now become broader, and the debris in its path had disappeared. Debris यहाँ से debris हो गया, ये पूरा आप देखेंगे कि पूरा debris नजर आ रहा है आपको. It totally had damaged all the structures near and around the Kedarnath and our temple. It was surakshit because our immediate past friend has told that one big stone, one rock that helped or that saved our this Kedarnath temple, that we all now worship it, and I have physically inspected that if that stones could not be flown and downstream and not stay up to upside of the Kedarnath, and Kedarnath temple must have been काफी नीचे उसको डैमेज हो जाता, बह जाता. Now accumulated participation. These pictures shows in Uttarakhand on June 10 and June 13 and other topical graphical areas also. Then these are the natural regions, because heavy incident rainfall a trigger for Uttarakhand disaster. June 15 to 18, Indian state of Uttarakhand and adjoining areas received heavy rainfall, which was about from 15 on 2 days. I have seen so told that 120 millimeter, but June 15 to 18 it was 375% more than the benchmark rainfall during a normal monsoon season. You see that how much the rain you will be able to see here. On 14th it was 5.6, 15th 15, then on 16th all of a sudden 113.25 mm, on 17th it was 180 mm. So you will see that only in these 2 days how much the rainfall that we got, and that caused the heavy losses and the damages. You will see the date by the rainfall, atmospheric pressure by a graph chart. Now the worst affected areas due to this glow, this is this flash floods, the Gangotri, Kedarnath, Badrinath, Hemkund, Jyotimat, Roopkund, and Gaurikund. These are the worst affected areas due to this flash floods. These are the some pictures that Chorabari Lakes, Kedarnath, that has been collected from the satellite center, and I have put only this slide so that you can see that what happened on this day. See the Chorabari Lake after disaster. These are the field photographs taken by NIH and NIM and other agencies that were involved in surveying and collecting the data, and to take the future measures so that in future we will not able to repeat such an incidents and can save our this earth as well as our this Uttarakhand people and our this natural resources. See, these are the beaching point of the Chorabari Lake. Field photograph dated 18 October का है ये after this flash floods, that you will see that this is the total damage. These are actually now the channel is open now. The lake is totally covered with the moraine and the river RBM materials, and these are the low stones. These are the overview of the Kedarnath township from the Chorabari Lake bank after disaster on 18th October का ये photo है taken by our the satellites team. This is the Rambala actually. Earlier it was Rambala, and you will see that after this incident, the Rambala is nowhere, and from the top, from the heli, if you see that, you will see like this. That before Rambala, see the lot of people there, lot of these houses were there, but it was totally damaged and destroyed by the rampage, by the this flash floods due to this globe. This is after Rambala, after disaster management. This is this picture. Actually, see the Kedarnath Valley that developed, and this will see the after it. So, with the preaching part of Chorabari and Kedarnath after disaster. See here, all the houses were actually covered and are dumped into the debris. And before this picture, I will see that this is the developed this Kedarnath Valley. So a lot of this damages came and a lot of this due to this debris and the flash floods and this, so we have to take a lot of these measures so that in future we can check it. This is the Kedarnath township after the disaster field photographs. And these are the basin details actually. The Brahmaputra, they are the 294 lakes and water body is 1099, total is 1393. In Ganga, we are having around 178 glacial lakes. Water bodies out of 178 is 105 and total 283. Indus में 31 and water body is 321, total is 352 and total is 503 and 1525 the water bodies, and total is 2028. This is the pictures after this incident came. This is the holy temple of Kedarnath, and you will see the lot of this. Even after this, I have visited in actually January 14 to assess the losses and the structures, and because the irrigation department also took a project for construction construction of the walls and the protection walls around the temple there. My dear friends, now what you need is the globe measurement and the warning systems. Through extensive research, CDEC has deployed India's first globe early warning system for Sikkim to protect globes. Sikkim was the first state to install the early weather systems, which will help the government authorities in case of an impending globe event. The globe early warning system has the following capacities. The water letting sensors developed indigenously by CDEC has been deployed at Shakwu Cho Lake, North Sikkim. The real-time sensors transmit data through INSAT satellite to control center at Gangtok. The flood simulation model runs the simulation for various globe scenarios. The model is capable of presenting flood simulation, inundation informations, and flood arrivals time in the event of a glacial lake outburst. My dear friends, because by installing these early warning systems, early automatic weather stations, we are able to warn the pupil around and in and around the affected areas. We can also warn the administration so that the local people can evacuate. And here, one thing I want to tell you beside this topic, that we have to implement the floodplain zoning, because without implementing the floodplain zoning, the people actually encroach our river system, nearby river system, and they make the temporary and permanent structures near and around the water bodies or rivers or canals. And when there is a havoc, when there is a this flood, all of it flash flood, then a lot of this loss of lives and there also. The flood simulation model runs the simulation of various globe scenarios. The model is capable of presenting flood simulation, inundation information, and flood arrival time, so that we have the right time, right data, so that the pupil can be informed well in time and can be evacuated. And here, Kedarnath, our this on the stamp, there are several possible methods for mitigating the impact of globe surges for monitoring and for early warning system. Downstream in the globe urban areas, measures should be taken to protect infrastructure against the destruction forces of globe surge. Careful evaluation by detailed studies of the lake, mother glaciers, damming materials, and the surrounding conditions for essentials in choosing an appropriate method and in starting any mitigation measures. Globe preventions: artificial deepening the natural spillway, blasting the moraine dam, incline drilling through moraine dam, driving a tunnel from an adjacent deeper lying valley, Norman method, the hydraulic siphon technique also. And the directions: the possible peak surge discharge from the globe could be reduced by reducing the volume of water in the lake. In general, any one or combination of the following methods may be applied for: controlled breaching. Number 2, construction of an outlet controlled structures. Number 3, pumping or siphoning out the water from the lake. And third one, the making a tunnel through the moraine barrier or under an ice dam. Controlled breaching is carried out by blasting an excavation or even by dropping bombs from an aircraft. By an army, that this can be taken out, because in an emergency, when the group is there, reaching at the site is not possible at all. So by using our helis from the armies and other disaster management authorities, we can use this one. For more permanent and precise control of lakes outflows, rigid structures made out of stone, concrete, or steel can be used, and the pumping or siphoning out of water from the lake, making a tunnel through the moraine dam. This is the monitoring the systems, how you will monitor, how you this land set, all these things. And with this, I end my this presentation on glacial lake and outburst flow, because some measures and the rules and regulations and that have been detailed by our Dr. Sanjay Jain, and because the later lot of studies now carried out by different agencies, and The Central Water Commission has also made it compulsory or mandatory to all our the stakeholders, so that after studying this globe, the assessment, the flood water can be measured and the hydraulic structures can be designed further. And we are proud that in our NIH, National Institute of Hydrology, Dr. Sanjay Jain is responsible for all these globe studies. They are the software, they have the different studies, not only this Kedar or the Uttarakhand Valley, but they have the other valleys, Brahmaputra Valley, the Sikkim, the Himalayas, other regions also. So they are the best guide to measure, to give us the instructions, take the future measures so that we can minimize the damages caused by our globe glacial lake outburst flood. With this, I thank you. I thank you very much.
थैंक यू इंजीनियर एनके यादव, आपने बहुत ही महत्वपूर्ण जानकारी दी। मेजर डिजास्टर्स इन हिमालयाज, टेरेस्ट्रियल, एटमॉस्फेरिक और मैनमेड। तब आपने डिफरेंट टाइप ऑफ GLOF के विषय में बताया। चोराबारी ग्लेशियर के विषय में आपने फिर विस्तार से बताया, और 26 जून 2013 को केदारनाथ जी में क्या वास्तव में हुआ था उसके बारे में हम सबको अवगत कराया। अफेक्टेड एरियाज ड्यू टू दिस चोराबारी लेक के विषय में आपने बताया, और बेसिन वाइज डिटेल्स ऑफ आउटबर्स्ट आपने अपने उद्घोषण में दी, और GOLF की मॉनिटरिंग एंड अर्ली वार्निंग सिस्टम के बारे में आपने बताया, और आखिर में आपने कहा कि जो ये लेक्स हैं इनकी कंट्रोल्ड ब्रीचिंग होनी चाहिए, और इनके ऊपर कोई स्ट्रक्चर्स बनाए जाए जिससे कि ये अचानक ना फटे और ये कंट्रोल में रहे, और जब हम चाहें तभी ये फटे। बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद एनके यादव, डियर एनके यादव, एंड थैंक यू वेरी मच। अब ये देयर आर क्वेश्चन आंसर सेशन। एनी क्वेश्चंस?
Yes, sir. We have received couple of questions from our audience.
तो संजय कुमार जैन will say give its answer. So
yes, Goel sir, I can see one question by Mr. or two questions by Mr. Pereira. I can reply them. Can you share any case study on how site-specific real-time hydrological data telemetry has actually been utilized to analyze the various parameters of glacial lake outburst flood for preparing emergency flood management plans at the ground level? Mr. Pereira, I would like to reply here that at present we are not involved in this type of any emergency flood management plans. But recently NDMA has prepared a comprehensive project for one of the lake, which is South Lonak Lake in Sikkim, in which we are going to be part of that project. So in that they have actually planned that the siphoning and emergency action plan. So right now we are not dealing this type of emergency action plan on the ground. Second question you have asked about the melting of snow in the Himalayas coincide with the start of the monsoon season. I'll say that melting of snow starts before the monsoon season. We are getting water from the melting of snow is right from April onwards, and then monsoon starts say in the month of May or June, and we are getting water from that rainfall. You have asked that many bridges have been washed away in downstream areas due to failure of bridge foundations, mainly due to discovery. That is, of course, there. How much additional discharge due to snow melt should we consider along with the monsoon flood flow for hydrology and hydronics of bridge foundations? I'd like to say here that in case of Himalayan basins, the melting of snow and rainfall runoff or glacier melt, all that we are considering when we are talking about the flood, which will come to a particular point. As we know that in Himalayan basins, we are getting sufficient flow because of snow and glacier melt. Like we studied in Satluj up to Bhakra, that we are getting about 60% of the flow because of snow and glacier melt. At Devprayag in Ganges Basin, we are getting about 35% of the flow which is coming from snow and glacier melt runoff. So when we are talking about these bridges, whatever flood which is coming to a particular bridge, we are considering snow and glacier melt runoff in addition to that monsoon runoff or monsoon flood. So that of course is there. And scoring and all that is another issue, which is because of that water, of course. But like we are getting all the water at a particular point from these three resources, means these three sources in case of Himalayan rivers. Any other question is there? If you want to ask, you can unmute and you can ask any of the participants. Or if Mr. Priya wants to clarify further, he can unmute and ask the question.
So let us close this session of question answers.
If there is no question, we can.
Okay. Thank you, Dr. Jain, for answering the question answers raised by audience. Thank you very much, Dr. S.K. Jain. Now I will request the next is a summary by me. I have already given summary after Dr. S.K. Jain's presentation and Engineer N.K. Yadav's presentation. So now giving summary, there is no idea. Vote of thanks will be given by our Honorary Secretary, Mr. Satish Chand Chauhan. I'll read his brief introduction. Shri Satish Chand Chauhan, Honorary Secretary, Uttarakhand State Center, is retired from Oil and Natural Gas Corporation as General Manager. He is AMI from Institution of Engineers in Mechanical in 1983. Postgraduate Diploma in Business Administration, MBA degree in Marketing Management, LLB in Labor Law, and Diploma in Yoga and Naturopathy, Master degree in Yoga Science, Diploma in Public Health and Community Nutrition. He has long association with Institution of Engineers India from student in 1975 to fellow member. In addition to 28 years long experience in drilling discipline in ONGC, he has also worked as legal advisor in ONGC. As extracurricular activities, he is trained and qualified yoga fitness teacher, conducting free yoga classes for health and wellness of the people. A sportsman, Shri Chauhan is a very popular. He has been college captain and champion in general sports during his study. At present, he is active master athlete and has secured 14 international and 32 medals in different national and international championships. हम तो इनके अवार्ड जब लगाते हैं अपने ये देखते रहते हैं भाई इतने सारे अवार्ड चौहान साहब जीत के लाए. Now I will request Mr. Satish Chand Chauhan to deliver his vote of thanks. Over to Mr. Satish Chand Chauhan.
Thank you, Goel Sahab. Thank you very much. Honorable Director Dr. H.O. Thackeray, President of Institution of Engineers, Engineer Narendra Singh. I am audible. Am I audible? Am I audible?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay. Engineer Narendra Singh, immediate past President of Institution of Engineers, Shri S.C. Goel, Chairman, Disaster Management, Disaster Awareness and Management Forum, Engineer Dharamchand, Chairman, Uttarakhand State Center, all council members, corporate members, committee members, key speakers, students, ladies and gentlemen, good evening to all. It is my privilege to have been asked to propose a vote of thanks on this wonderful occasion. On behalf of Institution of Engineers, Uttarakhand State Center, I extend my gratitude to Engineer S.C. Goyal, Chairman, Disaster Awareness and Management Forum, and National Institute of Hydrology, Roorkee, for associating this program. My big thanks to our Chairman, Sri Dharamchand, and Organizing Committee of Uttarakhand State Center for conducting this webinar. My precious thanks to Dr. H.O. Thackeray, President of Institution of Engineers, and Engineer Narendra Singh, immediate past President, for sparing their valuable time and guiding the gathering. I thanks to Dr. Nilanjan Sen Gupta, Director Technical of Institution of Engineers, and Mrs. Arpana Datta, Assistant Director Technical of Institution of Engineers from headquarters, for providing platform for this webinar. I express my heartily gratitude to both our panelists, Dr. Sanjay Kumar Jain and Engineer Narendra Kumar Yadav, for enriching us with glacial lake burst flood. We feel proud to know that we are monitoring the glacier lake. A number of hydroelectric projects in India are being planned in the Himalayan region. As our learned and most experienced person, Sri Narendra Singh जी, हमें बता चुके हैं, उन्होंने अपना अनुभव जो शेयर किया है, मैं उससे बहुत अनुभव हूँ, उनसे बहुत ही प्रभावित हो। उन्होंने पूरे अपने उत्तराखंड का विशेष तौर से जितना हिल रीजन है, जैसे वो चप्पा चप्पा जानते हैं, उन्होंने सारा अपना अनुभव हमारे साथ शेयर किया। मैं नरेंद्र सिंह जी का हृदय से बहुत बहुत आभार करता हूँ। और उन्होंने हमें जो बताया कि इस स्टडी से, जैसा उन्होंने बताया, एक बहुत इम्पोर्टेंट जो मुझको लगा कि ग्लेशियर हमें जीवन दे, न कि हमारा जीवन ले, ये बहुत महत्वपूर्ण है। तो अगर जो हम इनको सही से मैनेज करेंगे तो अवश्य ही वो जीवन देंगे और हमको पूरे वर्ष भर वो पानी देते रहेंगे, वो हमारे लिए आपदा ना बने। इसके लिए उन्होंने बहुत ही गहरी बात हमारे बीच में शेयर की, मैं उनका बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद अदा करता हूँ। I would like to express my gratitude to all esteemed delegates of webinar for their presence and contribution, and for interacting in the webinar and putting their question answer, and for enriching them with this wonderful and most knowledgeable webinar. Thank you very much. Jai Hind, Jai Bharat. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.